Well, we are all concerned with a question that seems to be brewing a lot these days, and the question is, will gay marriage become the law of the land? And most recently, we're seeing the pushback now of all places in France. The citizens are saying no. But what about the United States? Well, I'm delighted to have with me today Robert George. He's a co-author of a book entitled, What is Marriage? Professor George is a visiting professor at Harvard Law School and a McCormick professor of jurisprudence and director of the James Madison Program in American Ideals and Institution at Princeton University. And he's co-authored this book, and the topic deals with the legalization of gay marriage. And Robert, thank you for being with us today.
It's my pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
The big question, obviously, will gay marriage become the law of the land? And we're seeing such pushbacks in all areas. But you're saying in the book that there seems to be some significant contradictions in this gay marriage argument. Give us a few to chew on.
Sure. Once we abandon the historic conjugal understanding of marriage, that is, marriage as the union of husband and wife in a relationship that's naturally ordered to and would naturally be fulfilled by the coming to be of children, once we abandon that conception in favor of an alternative understanding of marriage as essentially sexual, romantic, domestic partnership, something concerned not with the welfare of children, but with adult satisfaction. Once we go down that road, then there is no logical principled basis for supposing that marriage is a sexual partnership as opposed to a partnership that could be as well integrated around non-sexual shared interests or activities, playing tennis, reading novels, a particular political cause. We can't have any principled basis for believing that marriage is an exclusive union as opposed to an open one sexually. Mm-hmm. We have no basis for believing that marriage is a union of two persons and only two, and not three or four or five or more in a polyamorous sexual partnership, which, by the way, is becoming the next frontier, with Newsweek magazine reporting that there are 500,000 polyamorous households in the United States. Wow. Many people in the polyamorous community now clamoring for legal recognition of their relationships. And we have no argument, once we've embraced the idea behind same-sex marriage, no argument for saying that marriage has to be two people as opposed to three or four. And we have no argument for understanding marriage as, at least aspirationally, a permanent partnership, one pledged to permanence as well as fidelity, as opposed to simply a temporary alliance. So the whole idea of marriage unravels, not just one little part of it. The whole idea of marriage unravels once you abandon marriage as a conjugal union in favor of an idea of marriage as a sexual, romantic, domestic partnership.
All right. In the United States, we seem to have some real conflicts. Some people think it's a 10th Amendment issue. Others think it's a federal issue. Some think it's a state right issues. But we do have states now that have it, and we have states that don't, and they want the feds to come in over the top, and the feds are saying, no, it's a 10th Amendment issue. Where do you see all that argument going?
Well, marriage historically and constitutionally has been primarily, let me put the emphasis here on primarily, a matter of state law. And that's as it should be, and I think that's right. However, primarily does not mean exclusively. And the national government has always had an interest in marriage, and the national government has very frequently taken steps of its own to protect and to promote marriage, authentic marriage, and to avoid marriage counterfeits becoming established. And so, for example, the federal government made a condition of Utah's acceptance as a state, Utah enshrining in its constitution a rejection of polygamy, of plural marriage, right? Which, of course, had been practiced by the Mormon community out there, but which is not practiced by Orthodox Mormons anymore. That's strictly forbidden, and the Mormon Church now is at the forefront of defending marriage as the union of one man and one woman, standing alongside Catholics and evangelicals and Orthodox Jews and others. But the national government has historically played a role in it, and there's no reason why, in certain limited respects, the national government can't play a role in it now. Overall and in the long run, I think it's fair to say that marriage will stand or fall in our country as a whole. There are limits to how much pluralism or diversity, as to what the very definition of marriage is, can be sustained. It's awkward, to say the least, for someone to be married in North Carolina, but not married when they cross the border into South Carolina, and then married again when they move into another state. But that's what federalism, at least for the moment, under our Constitution would require. There's no constitutional impediment to states redefining marriage. Several states have done it, either by judicial fiat or by legislative action. That's constitutionally permissible. I myself would like to see a constitutional amendment establishing the national definition of marriage as the union of one man and one woman. But what certainly is unwarranted is for the judiciary now to intervene with a kind of Roe versus Wade for marriage and impose same-sex marriage on the states that are exercising their constitutional prerogative to uphold the historic understanding of marriage as a conjugal union.
Do we really want to get this administration involved in this? Because we know where they stand and they could really mess it up.
This administration is involved in it. There's absolutely nothing we can do to prevent that. There's no way that we're going to be able to enact any kind of constitutional protection for marriage so long as this administration is in control, and the Democratic Party, which is now absolutely and firmly committed to redefining marriage, retains power in the Senate. So we're looking here now at really a long-term solution to the problem, not something that can be enacted overnight. So for the time being, I think the present constitutional settlement should be maintained, and we should act on our constitutional rights in the states to defend marriage everywhere we can, and if possible, even roll back the redefinition of marriage in those states that have made that unfortunate decision. The worst thing that could happen would be for the judiciary to intervene and to redefine marriage for the whole country, to do, in the case of marriage, what they did in the case of abortion, causing not only the tragedy of millions of abortions, but also depriving the people of the states of their democratic authority.
It would seem to me, Robert, that if you just took the faith community, if they would just weigh in, this problem is solved.
That's right. What you're seeing in France, interestingly, is a powerful collaboration, a powerful cooperation between Catholics. France was historically a Catholic country. Evangelical Protestants. France has a not insignificant evangelical population now. Orthodox Jews, led by the Grand Rabbi of France, has put out a wonderful statement defending marriage as a conjugal union. And the Islamic community. The Union of Islamic Organizations in France has joined with the Jews and with the Protestants and with the Catholics to defend marriage. We need that in the United States. Certainly we need Christians of all traditions, and Catholic and Protestant and Eastern Orthodox, to join together in the defense of marriage. Their witness, unified and powerful witness alone, could probably turn the tide. But there are others outside the Christian community, Orthodox Jews and now Muslims, who really are willing to join with Christians in order to fight the battle. One of the churches that has been in the forefront in defending marriage has been the Mormon Church, the Latter-day Saints community, which historically, of course, has not been understood as being a Christian church by many other Christians. Still, Christians of different denominations have worked together with the LDS community, for example, to pass Proposition 8, defending and reestablishing conjugal marriage out there.
Right. Civil unions, I mean, they're trying to say, well, that's the compromise. How do you see it?
If civil unions amounts to just marriage by another name, then that's not a good solution at all. It constitutes really the abandonment of marriage. Marriage has to be seen as the institution that brings men and women together as husbands and wives to be mothers and fathers. Children vitally depend on the integrity and flourishing of the marriage culture. We know what happens when large numbers of children are brought up outside the marital bond. We can see it in places in our own country, and we can see where it's happened abroad. The whole of society depends on there being a vibrant marriage culture for the rearing of children. And to redefine marriage, whether you call it civil unions or call it marriage, is to undermine the institution of marriage, to damage children, and therefore to damage the society as a whole. So everybody's got a vital stake in marriage, which is why, by the way, even secularists and even gay activists in France have joined in this movement to oppose the Hollande socialist government's efforts to redefine marriage. some of the leading spokesmen against redefining marriage, against gay marriage in France, are themselves outspoken gay activists who nevertheless believe that children deserve a mother and a father, and to preserve a marriage culture in which the largest number of children possible will have a mother and father, we need to retain the definition and understanding of marriage as a conjugal union.
Well, at the same time, the culture is asking us to accept it in our entertainment. So it seems to be almost an endless battle right now.
It's a tough battle, but we've had tough battles before. I don't know how old you are, but I'm old enough myself to remember when people thought that the expansion of communism was inevitable.
Right.
It was just, you were on the wrong side of history if you were an anti-communist.
Right.
I remember when they told us that abortion was inevitable, that once Roe versus Wade was handed down, the Supreme Court had settled the issue, the culture was going in the pro-abortion direction.
Right.
All the young people were pro-abortion, only a few old priests were holding out, and when they died out, the battle would be over and we'd move on to other things. Here we are 40 years later with the pro-life movement fighting, alive, vibrant, and more popular with young people than ever before.
Right.
So we've seen this before. The eugenics movement was supposed to be inevitable, unstoppable, get with the program. Only the Catholics stood against it.
Okay.
But look what happened. Eugenics now is a bad thing.
Robert, thank you. I love your passion. It's called What is Marriage? Check out the book. There's a picture of it on the screen. Check it out at Barnes & Noble and or at Amazon. Get a copy of it. And Robert George, one of the co-authors of the book, What is Marriage? Thank you for your passion. Let's stay in touch as this battle heats up even more. And I'd like to have more of your perspective on it in the future. Thank you, Robert.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your work.
All right. God bless.